Hi y'all, welcome back to Regina's Crafting and More. I'm getting ready to do a stitch out. I gave some of you this file to stitch out, and the stars, it's the stars and stripes. And this is the second time. I worked on these last year and got frustrated, and I was trying to put too many stars in. So I just put 3 stars in, and they're tricky. So let me show you this stitch out and just kind of reiterate some stuff. For those of you that do freestanding lace and you don't use the shelf liner on your hoop, or use T-pins and secure them really well, please watch my video on this issue in my YouTube channel, or on my YouTube channel. There is a link to it in my group, and I can't tell you enough how important it is to use one of these methods when you're doing these types of designs. There's a lot of sections to these designs. Most of the ones that I do, there are a lot of fine tuning that has to be done whenever you do these designs. So let me get started, and I'll reiterate some stuff. Let me turn this around. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, this is the water-soluble fibrous type stabilizer. This is what you want to use. You do not want to use that plastic-looking stuff. Back years ago, that was all we had, and you could not do designs like this. That is used primarily as a topper now. So when you're doing these freestanding lace earrings, you want to wind your bobbin with the same thread that you use up at the top. Don't use bobbin thread, okay? Wind your bobbins. So as you can see on these, I've saved my water-soluble stabilizer. I think you can see it. Let me move this light a little bit. And I've sewn my bigger pieces to some smaller pieces to make me more, because I try to conserve. You can see here how much I've sewn together. So you can do that using wash away thread or dissolvable thread. And I've put a link, and I'll put one in here, as to where I get it. I got it off of Amazon. So you use, when you sew your water-soluble stabilizer together, you want to use your water-soluble thread to sew your water-soluble stabilizer so everything dissolves. All right, so I have my bobbin that I wound from my top white thread, and I'm doing color stop number 1, which does the white stripes, and it does it for 2 earrings. Now I'm doing 4 earrings. I'm not going to have you watch me stitch all these earrings. So this does the stripes on this side, and then it comes over here and does the stripes on the other side. Let me put this. If none of you have one of these things, let me tell you, it is wonderful. See how long it is? This is a thread nest deboggler. I don't know what this is. Let me see what it's called. Bird's Nest Untangling Toolkit. And I got it off of Madam Sew. It is your friend. Let me tell you what, it is your friend. Just as I was getting started on this, something must have happened when I wound my bobbin, and it didn't wind right, and it was hanging up on itself. And so I had to pick it out and rewind the bobbin, but this is great. Do not touch this side. You'll slice your finger off. So here's the little cap. Always put your cap on, stick it back in your box. It comes with a, and I don't work for Madam Sew. I don't have any sponsors, so y'all know that when I recommend something, it's because I've used it. And here's where it goes in the box to keep everything nice and safe. Now this is a little tool. I have not used this hook yet. I've not had to. I just kind of, when I get a bird's nest, I raise my hoop up a little bit and reach under there with the one I was showing you and slice that thread off. and take everything out. Pick it out if it's just started, or throw away the stabilizer if it's not, you know, if you're not able to save it. But it's a great tool. I'll give you that. Bird's Nest Untangling Toolkit. The best tool you will ever have in your sewing stash, or your sewing tool stash, I should say. Alright, so this is doing the finishing up the stripes over here. Alright, so the only tack down you have is at the beginning, and you have a tie off at the end, and that just tied off. So it does this in continuous stitch. So I need to change thread. Now, if I don't do this, what I'm getting ready to show you, I forget to cut my thread tails, and that can always give you problems. So trim off your thread tails. Sometimes you have to hold the hoop up where you can see them. And you should only have thread tails at the start of the design and at the end of the design, this section. Okay, all right, so I've done that. Now I need to put in my red bobbin and my red top thread. I'll be right back. All right, so here's my bobbin that I wound from my red thread that I'm going to use. So if I don't do this as I'm going, then I forget. Don't forget to change your bobbin. I can't tell you how many times I just took the hoop off and put my top thread in, and as soon as it starts sewing, you know you've forgotten, because you have the whatever color thread you have in here shows up at the top. So hang on. All right, I've got my top thread done. I love my Solaris, but I don't like the fact that it cuts the thread too short, and it ends up unthreading. So, and my my thread got caught one time and messed up the automatic threader. So I'm having to thread by hand, which I don't mind. Next time I have to take it in, I'll get it fixed. Okay, so I've got my red bobbin in, I've got my red thread, and off we go. All right, so the red stripes overlap the white stripes just a little bit in order for everything to hold together well. Now, I have another set that only has 2 red stripes, and I got to looking at it and saved it as another file and created the 3. I took the wider stripes on the other set and made them smaller and added one, because I like the look of the 3 stripes. So I'm hoping this stitches out well. Now this one does not have a set of satin stitching going across the top and the bottom of the stripes. It just has the stripes. Set 1 has a satin stitch that stitches on top and bottom of the first stitch and on top and bottom of the last red stripe, sorry. Alright, so it's going to go up. So this has a tack down and a tie off when it finishes doing this satin stitch on the outside of the earrings. So it's pretty continuous. So far everything's looking good. Now it's going to jump over and do the other one. I'll be back. Alright, the red stripes have finished. So now we need to take the hoop off, turn it over, trim the thread tails, And something got caught up there from one of the stripes. Okay, trim that and grab that and trim that. Come on off of there. All right, so now we're going to put in our blue bobbin and our blue top thread, and I'll be right back. All right, I have my blue bobbin in, my blue top thread in. This is color stop number 3. I've trimmed my tails. And it's going to stitch the top of the, now if you have a long tail in here, because when you rethread, it's not long enough to cut off up here, I hold it because I don't want it to get sucked down. 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. And then I trim it off so it doesn't get sucked back down in there. Well, I changed the size of that hole. I thought I bumped it up, but it's still pretty small. It's large enough to get your hardware through. But I will go and make an adjustment on it because it looks just a little too small. So it's going to leave a little gap where the stars are going to go. Like a little hole. Now, stitching both pair of earrings is 29 minutes. So usually I stitch 2. I have, I give a pair to my best friend if they work out. Alright, so this should be just about finished. And it'll do the satin stitching around the edges. Just about finished with the top of this earring. Yeah, I've got to make that hole a little bit bigger. Alright, so it's going to go over and do this one. I'll be back. Alright, so it's finished stitching over here. And I'm going to do the stars now. The stars are tricky. Okay, so I have my white thread back in here, and I've got this long tail. I'm going to hang on to it, okay, and let it stitch. I'm not holding it super tight. And when it cuts, I'm going to stop it. Okay, So the problem is when the thread cuts and then you have that tail, it leaves a really bad spot on the back. Okay, so I had had this little blue thread. There we go. So that worked really well. I've got a nice star on the back. I've got a nice star on the front. So you turn it over, trim that tail, grab your thread. I know it's a pain in the patootie, but you'll end up with a nice star. So hold that thread. You're not going to hold it super tight. You're just going to hold on to it so it doesn't get sucked down in there. I dog it. Pulled it out of my fingers. All right, we'll see what happens. And it's going to have a booger bear on the back. Yep, see what happens when it pulls it back down in there? All right, so I was able to salvage that one on the back. And you need these squeezers, they're called. They're titanium. Let me see if I can get this light over here a little bit more. These Femore titanium squeezers, they have a super sharp point. Don't use them to cut material. The last time I saw Brent at the quilt show, I complained that these didn't hold the sharpness on them. And he said, "You're kidding," because I just bought them the previous quilt show. And I said, yeah, I said, I trim the fabric and everything. They're great for doing that. He said, "Stop. You trim fabric with these?" And I said, "Yes." He went, "These are thread trimmers, not fabric trimmers. They will lose their edge so fast, it's not even funny if you trim fabric with them." All right, so I'm going to pull my thread. I'm going to hold my thread a little tighter so it doesn't yank it out of my hand. And I've cut the thread on the back of the second star. And I'm holding my thread. And I'm going to continue to hold it out of the way while it stitches that star. Okay, and I'm stopping it. Trim my thread here, lift it up. Pain in the patootie, but if you want stars, and nice looking stars on the back. So that's where it started. And that's my lid. Okay, so those stars are nothing like they would be if you let that thread get sucked back behind. All right, so we're gonna do the other stars. Now, this holds true because I've done a pair with circles in them. I thought it was the stars that were the circles. I thought it was the stars that would give me a problem, and I did them with circles. And trying to trim that little thread. There we go. So I use tweezers to grab the thread and lift it up, and use these to cut the thread. All right, so we're going to hold on to the thread. I'm going to start it. Let it stitch that first star. And I'm just holding the thread loosely, not pulling it tight. And once it cuts, I'm going to stop it so it doesn't start stitching again. Raise my foot, pull this off of here. See, it didn't even finish cutting the threads. Trim my thread, top and bottom. See, we've got a decent star without too much buildup back here. Trim your threads. Pain in the patootie, I know. Okay, but at least it will give you decent looking stars on the back and the front. Okay, put your hoop back in. Hold your thread. I'm going to hold it just a little bit tighter. and stop it. Raise my foot. Trim the thread up here. Turn it over. See the tails that it leaves back here? I'm going to use my tweezers. Trim that. And there's those tails. And so by doing that, I have a decent looking star on the back. So let's do it one more time. Okay, holding my thread. Oops, helps put the lever down to start. Let me grab hold of my thread a little bit better. I don't want it to get sucked down in there. Ah, dog it. You hear it? And that's putting a rat's nest on the back. I don't have strong fingers. Okay. So let's see what damage it did back here. I don't know why it's not cutting. Oh yeah, it's nasty. Oh my God. I don't know what makes it do that, but you know what? When it's wet, you can trim most of this away, and that is just, that's if you let that, keep that thread, if you can keep it from being pulled back to the back. Yeah, see, that's a nasty star. And the others worked out so well. So I will probably put, after I wash it out, put a little fabric glue on that, because I've trimmed so much of that away, debulked it, so to speak. You got to hold on to that thread. It looks like it's a nice star on the front, but that last one got a booger bear on it. Oh goodness, I just can't hold that thread well enough, and it pulls it and sucks it up and messes it up. All right, so there's the lessons on the stars and stripes. I hope you have success in doing these stars, and I have already changed the size of this loop right here for the earrings. Thanks for watching. Enjoy. Hi y'all, this is Regina. I am back with the stars and stripes. This one is the set that has 3 stripes, 3 red stripes, 3 white stripes, with the blue with at the top with the stars. So the stars are difficult. I worked on these last year and brought them back up and been piddling with them, and the stars are very tricky, time consuming if you want to do them. Oops, that's stucking. All right, hang on. All right, so color stop number 1 is going to stitch the 3 white stripes, and then you want to take your hoop off. I've already done 1 test stitch on it, and the stars are tricky, so I'm going again. And I've given, after doing these stars, I've given it a little thought, and we're going to approach stars a little differently. So when I get to that point on this set that I'm stitching, I'll be back. But so this is the white, it's going to do the red, and after it stitches, I'll show you. There is a tack down and a tie off on these. That's the only thing. There's no cuts in between. Tack down and a tie off. So I need my red bobbin. So I will be right back. Alright, so I'm stitching the red just like up here. No problems with that. I'll be back when I get to the point where I need to start the stars. Alright, stitch the front with the red. Turn it over before you even change threads. Cut off those tails. And if you have a little loop from where that stripe stitched, cut it off. All right, so now I've got to put in my blue bobbin and my blue thread, and I'll be right back. All right, so when I started stitching this second set, I thought I had pulled up my revised file that had the larger loop, and I didn't, so I started again. So I'm going to have one with a small loop and one with a larger loop. All right, so it's doing this. I'll be back. All right, the blue is finished. I'm going to trim these little tails off. Okay, and we're going to approach the stars a little differently, because the issue is when it stitches, it pulls the top thread down, and between the top thread and the bottom thread, it creates a little knot, a little boogered up knot. So if you want stars and stripes, you'll have to, it's a little more time consuming, but you'll have to approach this in a different manner. All right, so hang on. All right, so I thought I had figured out a way to make the stars work. And I tried it up here by holding this thread and just keep holding it until it finishes stitching. But if you let go of this tail on the thread, if it pulls it out of your hand, then you get this terrible mess on the back of the star. So we're going to approach this a little differently. So hold your thread tail, let it start stitching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then raise your foot and carefully find the thread that you're holding. Okay, there it is. And trim it off. If you have a tail on the top, find it and trim it off. Okay, then let that finish stitching. Now, I had a problem with my bobbin. My bobbin wound. All right, so when it finishes that one star, stop it. Grab your thread tail. Okay, do the same thing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop it. You don't want it to go any further. Pull that thread that you were holding and trim it off. You don't want it to go back down. Okay, get ready. Stop it. So I don't know how long your machine tail is when it trims, but and how it works. See, there's mine. So I'm going to raise it up. I'm going to grab it a little bit more so I can hold on to it. I'm going to let it start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and I've kind of got, I know how many times my needle goes down before it starts stitching, and I can trim at 5. So I'm going to trim that. I'm going to let it finish. I'm going to turn it off because I want to look at the back of this. Okay, so I stopped it. So see all those thread tails? That's what's getting caught up. And even stopping this thing and trimming those tails, it still has some little things, but you can trim these tails and end up with a clean back. So use your tweezers Okay. Trim your tails. See that even at this, that first one got kind of weird. The second and third one did nicely. Okay. All right, so let's try it on the other one. This is the other one. This one got boogered up real bad, but this stitched great. All right, so, but I did have a bobbin issue, and I may still have a bobbin issue. I might have to take this in. I'm just going to take the bobbin out. And, you know, you get used to what it sounds like, what your machine sounds like as it's starting to stitch. All right, so I'm going to hold my thread tail. I'm going to let it start. Raise my foot up, and I'm going to trim this. I've got another little tail there I'm going to trim too. I hope that's not my... Okay. I'm going to have to take my machine in. All right, so I'm going to cut that off. Let me check the back. Hopefully it didn't mess up the back. If it did, maybe I can cut it. Yeah, I definitely have an issue with my machine. It probably needs to be cleaned. I've been doing a lot of stitching and sewing, so I'll be right back. All right, so I've got an issue with my bobbin. The way it's winding or something, it's not doing right. And it's getting caught up. See this? Look at this. Oh, what a mess. All right, so you get my message on what you need to do. And I think if I may go over to my other machine and try stitching this out. I won't be able to get it back in place, but look at that. So that's what's causing some of my issue is my bobbin. So let me see if I can get through this set. I know it's not winding incorrectly. I mean, the wrong way. It's just not winding properly, I'm assuming. All right, so I need to go back to the beginning of my... Let's see where I am. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to try this again and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I'm going to raise my foot. There's my thread. I'm going to cut that and let it start again and hope this doesn't get messed up on the back. And I just changed my needle, so it's not my needle. Alright, so that one sounded good. Usually you can tell when it's doing something. Raise this up. Matter of fact, I'm going to use this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Alright, so I've got that little button up here on the Solaris, so it would have done 5, so I'm going to start this. I don't know how many yours does, so you can't go on that. You're going to have to, hopefully you know how many times it goes before it actually starts stitching. Okay, so that sounded good. Raise my foot up a little bit. We're going to let it start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to reach under here, pull my tail out and trim it. Okay. So that sounded like it worked really well. Let's turn it over. I do have some thread tails that need to be trimmed, which, you know, you're always going to have that. And you just trim those away. And like I said, when it's wet, you can kind of bend it a little bit, and that is much better than this. So that worked out a whole lot better. I do have a little thread here that I want to try to trim. There we go. So that does work out a whole lot better. So if you want to try these stars, use this method of holding the thread and not letting it pull back down in the machine, because that's what happened here. This got pulled back down in the machine, and the stars look really nice on the front. So I hope you'll try this and let me know, and enjoy. Have a great one. Hi y'all, this is Regina. I am testing some freestanding lace oval stars and stripes earrings. This is the gift tag. You know, you always get a gift tag with earrings, and I am testing it, so I'm going to keep you apprised as to how it goes. I've had someone stitching for me, and there have been some problems with the gift tag, but not with the earrings, which doesn't make any sense to me because it's the exact same design, just larger. And I've made the appropriate adjustments, but it's been giving me fits, and her. Crystal has stitched this for me twice, bless her heart. And so I made some very minor changes, and I'm stitching it again. But this one has just 2 red stripes, and I have another set that has 3 red stripes. Everything else is the same, other than the red stripes. So hopefully this will turn out well when I wash it. So far so good. I don't have any pulling, but you know, as you can see, I've got shelf liner on this 4x4 hoop, and I have a video that shows you how to do this, how to add this on. And you just use double-sided tape and cut it so that it cut the shelf liner so you have enough over here and just a little bit on this side. This does not interfere with the 4x4 design, as you can see. I also have a method on the video that shows you how to do this, on how to use the T-pins. And this just keeps the stabilizer from pulling, shifting, whatever you want to call it. And it's helped me a great deal. I'm out of bobbin. So I will get right back to you when this is finished. Alright, so it's finished the inside. Now it's getting ready to do the satin stitching around the edges of the blue. And there was some pull that Crystal was having. So let's hope, because I've changed the direction of the stitching here, that has eliminated the pull. I cannot tell y'all how much I appreciate you doing testing, and sometimes the design just doesn't act the way it's supposed to, and I have to make several changes. So far this is looking good. No gaps in the design, but that doesn't mean it won't happen when we go wash it out. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed. So I'm trying to make a new change. I'm trying to make this little circle here, which is what you put your hardware on, stitch before whatever it touches, and that way it incorporates and makes this a little sturdier up at the top. So all right, let's take this to rinse it out. Well, I can't take it yet because I have to stitch the white stars. All right, I've changed my, hang on. Okay, so as I was starting the stitching on the stars, it dawned on me that it very well could be these stars that are pulling on the threads and causing the problem, but we'll see. I did make an adjustment on the stars, so, and I can't stitch them before. If I stitch them before, it just doesn't look right. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. I started working on these last year before July 4th. I never could get them right. And then I brought them up here a few weeks ago, and I've been messing with them off and on. But I've been determined to get these done. So far, I'm not seeing an issue. One more star to do. I tried to make these smaller and more of them, but it just didn't look right. The stars just weren't cooperating. So don't forget, before you change your bobbin thread, pull your hoop out, and before you change your bobbin thread, trim the tails on the back of your design. If you forget, then they could get caught up and loop around and cause a mess on the back of your design. All right, so this is finished. So let me take this off, and I'm going to go to the kitchen with it and rinse it. So I'm going to show you. This is the back, and there's nothing I can do about this catching because I've made a very conscious effort to start up here, and then it jumps over to the other side, and then it jumps way over here. But all you have to do is trim these few little tails, okay? Whoops, sorry about that. Trim these few little tails. I'm trying to cut and videotape at the same time because I don't have my tripod out. All right, so let me go wash it. All right, so this is the 3-stripe gift tag that I'm going to test stitch. I already tested the earrings, so there shouldn't be any issue. Hang on. All right, so there's 4 color stops. The first color stop stitches the white stripes, and it's just like the other. You have a tack down and a cutoff. No stops in between. Once it's finished typing, oh my goodness, stitching the stripes, then it ties off. So you should have a tail at the beginning and a tail at the very end of the stripes. And why is this not doing that? Okay, I lied. I'll fix that. Shoot. I can't wait for losing on these. I'm going to go fix it right now. Alright, so that's been fixed. So it'll stitch the stripe, it'll stitch the first stripe, come down, stitch the second, come down, and stitch the third, all in one stitching. It doesn't stop and cut the threads until it's done. Alright, so now you want to trim the threads on the back, just like before. Alright, so now we're stitching the red stripes. We have a stripe here, here, and down here. It's 3 stripes versus the 2 on the other one. so I'm not going to have you watch all the stitching on these 3 stripes because it's pretty much just like anything else. And I'll come back when it gets down here to the bottom. I'll let you see this. This will continue. I'm going to let this stitch. I'm going to let this first stripe stitch, and so you can see that it goes down just like the white stripes should do. So just bear with me a minute. So this gift tag takes 20 minutes stitching time. That doesn't count your cutting your threads, putting your bobbin in, changing threads, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so it's going on its last pass. I'm going to turn the camera around just a minute so don't get dizzy. Alright, so this is what we're stitching right here. And this doesn't have any satin stitching around the red stripes. The other one does. So you can pick from which one you want. I like both of them. Alright, so we're just about through with this stripe. And that's what the white will do too. It'll come down and do just like this just did. A continuous stitch. When that row stops, it does the same thing, so I'll be back. I mean, when that row finishes, it'll come down and come down here and stitch the last stripe. Alright, so it's just about finished, and now it's going to go up and do the outside satin stitch. Now what I've done, if you've tested before, I've made this stitch a little wider. So you will want to, I will send you, if you've tested, I will send you the designs if you've done a test for me. And you will want to delete the previous file that I sent you. Okay. So now we're done with the red. Alright, I'm stitching the top part right now of the gift tag that has the 3 stripes instead of the 2 stripes. So I'll be back in just a little bit when this is done. Alright, so I've stitched the blue part. I've trimmed my tails on the back. And I'm going to change threads and stitch the stars. Alright, so I've got my white thread in here. I've got my tail. I'm going to hang on to it. That's my thread tail from the top. So when it started doing the bobbin, it pulled up a little tail back here, and I'm gonna trim it too. So I trimmed the tail I was holding and the bobbin tail that came up. And you do the same thing on the earrings. So because mine will suck it back down, I'm going to stop it. I don't want that tail to get sucked back down there. I'm not worried about trimming. Let me take this off. We'll go ahead and trim the... So you probably can't see it, but there's my little tails. So this one starts up here. This one starts up here. I think this one starts over down here, and this one starts over here. So the tails would be far enough apart that you really would not have to take it off and trim it, but since I have it off, I'm going to trim it. But when you do earrings, you definitely want to take it off and trim it, because they're so tiny, those tails can really cause a mess. Alright, so I'm holding on to my thread over here because it cut, and I don't want it to get sucked back down. Alright, so I'm going to trim that off. I've got to find it. And there it is. And I did not see the bobbin tail come up, so I didn't have one to trim. Like I said, when you do earrings, you definitely want to, you hold the tail to start. When it finishes, take it off, trim the tail on the back. Go to the next star. Hold the tail to start, take it off, trim the tail. Alright, so I'm not going to trim it because I know it's way over here and it's going this way. But on the earrings, it doesn't make any difference. You have to take the hoop off and trim this tail, because everything is so tiny on the earrings. Now, this is one that I was testing and I was going to show you. If you don't want to stitch the stars, you don't have to. You can just leave them blank. But, I don't know, I'd already thrown this one in the garbage, and it was wet when I threw it in. Alright, so we're done. So when I take this off, I'm going to have this thread tail right here. And I've got this, well, this is from the bobbin, when it pulled up the bobbin to begin with, and there's my thread tails right there. So the gift tag is a whole lot easier, and there it's done. That's the front, and there it's the back. But the earrings are more persnickety. You have to stitch one star, hold the tail, stitch a star. When it stops and it cuts, you want to take it off, trim the tail on the back, go to the next star, hold the tail, let it start. When it stops and cuts, take it off, trim the tail. You have to do that on the earrings. So there's the gift tag for the 3-stripe oval earrings. Thanks for watching. Alright, so I take it to the kitchen and I put it in, have a little pan that I use. I put hot water in it. I throw my design down in there, and as soon as the design disappears from around the edge, I take it out. Now this one, because it's an oval and there's some pull, I use my chopstick to kind of shape it with my hand, and around here and around here. I'm going to turn this around this way. So I took my chopstick and my finger and just kind of shaped around here. Now I've messed with it and it's not dry, it's wet, so I'm going to have to do it again. But there's no pulls, there's no gaps anywhere. Alright, here are both sets of the Stars and Stripes gift tags and earrings. This is set A, this is set B. 2-stripe, 3-stripe. I've changed the satin stitching around the edge of the gift tags and made it a little bit larger. I think that it has helped with this little wavy thing that goes on the oval, and it works out a lot better, as you can see. Whenever you stitch these and you're finished, trim really close to the edges. Don't leave much much water-soluble stabilizer around the edges. You want to trim close. Be careful. Throw your designs in a super hot pan of water. You don't need much water because you're only going to leave it in there a few seconds till the water-soluble stabilizer dissolves from around the edge. And you just want to have maybe like this much, okay, super close. As soon as that water-soluble stabilizer disappears, take the design out. You don't want to leave your designs, your earring and your gift tag designs, sitting in water. You want some of that wash-away stabilizer to stay in your earrings to give them body, okay, and your gift tags especially. So this is the 2-stripe, 3-stripe, and the ladies that have done the test stitching, and thank you very much for all your feedback. It's helped. You will receive the sets again that you originally stitched for me, and I can't say thank you enough. I really appreciate it, and and I hope you enjoy it. Happy 4th of July. Have any questions, shoot me a Facebook Messenger, private message, or an email. All right. Enjoy. Happy Independence Day.